Hi, and welcome to a special edition of Kino, coming to you today from the city of Frankfurt, famous, of course, for its skyline and capital of high finance. But Frankfurt is also home to one of the largest film museums in Europe, and they're honoring with an amazing exhibit a cinematic masterpiece. "2001: A Space Odyssey," the mother of all science fiction films. In 1968, director Stanley Kubrick rewrote the rules of cinema in a way that continues to amaze and inspire.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore.
Today on Kino, we're doing a deep dive into 2001. We're devoting our entire show to Stanley Kubrick's sci-fi classic. Kubrick's film turns 50 this year, but 2001 is still way ahead of its time.
When Kubrick began putting his sci-fi masterpiece together in the mid-1960s, Americans and Soviets were vying to be the first to reach the moon. To develop a visionary but believable set design, Kubrick hired NASA experts who had worked with rocket pioneer Wernher von Braun. The Frankfurt show explores how meticulously every technical detail was planned. Kubrick was the first to use product placement. This futuristic watch from the luxury brand Hamilton went on sale as the film opened. But only a few original props are preserved. Kubrick destroyed most of them. This is a replica of the model of the famous centrifuge, a hamster wheel weighing 30 tons and 12 meters in diameter. Filming was so complicated that it took several days to shoot just a few seconds. Waltzing through the galaxy. The space scenes were created with elaborate animation, by hand, without computer technology.
You know, when you think it's all models, it's all wood and glue and string and nothing shows, it's just a testament to how careful he was, and God knows how many sort of takes they took of the model shots, because obviously the special effects took a really long time.
More than 100 people worked on the special effects alone. Kubrick spent 4 years making the film at London's MGM studios, going way over his budget and schedule. With his team, he created images like none before.
So there was a very open kind of art school atmosphere. Let's see, let's try. There was no, oh, we can't do that attitude. You know, that was a red rag to Stanley. You can't say, oh, we can't do that. Well, why not? Why can't you? Let's try it. So everybody was able to be as imaginative and as crazy and wacky because there were no wrong answers.
Kubrick wrote the screenplay with sci-fi legend Arthur C. Clarke. Their goal was to create the definitive sci-fi film, probing the question of extraterrestrial life and artificial intelligence that spirals out of control in the form of the onboard computer, HAL.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
It's really a philosophical film. It's not really science fiction. I call it much more philosophical film, and it is so fresh because it doesn't contain in its essence anything that can be outdated, because we are as ignorant now as we were 50 years ago about the miracles of the universe.
Where do we come from? Where are we going? Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey offers no answers, only stunning images. The journey continues.
And I'm joined now with Ellen Harrington, the director of the Film Institute and the Film Museum here in Frankfurt. Thanks for joining us. We want to talk about 2001. When was the first time you saw the movie? Do you remember? And do you remember what it did with you? Did you remember its impact?
I remember very specifically, and one of the great fortunes that I've had in my career is I've been a film programmer, and I was able to hold off on seeing 2001 until I could see it on the big screen. You know, I can only imagine that everybody who would have a chance to see the movie this way would just be carried away by it. It's a very famous story of when the movie was first released, people actually walked out of the premiere. You know, people who had traditional expectations of a Hollywood movie and were looking for a linear narrative, and it wasn't a box office success at the beginning, but then they redid the marketing, and I actually know the guy who created the tagline, the ultimate trip. And they positioned it in 1968 as a movie that would expand your consciousness and, you know, kind of subvert your expectations of what a movie should be. And it attracted a young audience, it attracted, you know, people who were in the counterculture, and it became a huge hit because of that.
I mean, but is there anything for you personally that you still find interesting or fascinating about the film? Not in terms of its history, but just as a film goer?
Yeah. The amazing thing about this, the photography, the visual effects, just watching the beauty of each of those sequences, and the fact that he's really willing to hold the camera and extend a sequence and ask you to step into that vision and to just take that journey. And then when you have the marriage in certain sequences of some of these classic pieces of music, that also is incredible, because now people, when they hear that music, it immediately makes them think of the film, as it does with me.
Yeah, and you've got a whole exhibit here dedicated to the film. What do you think the exhibit adds to our understanding of 2001?
What I really like about this exhibition and the way that it brings the audience in is it shows the whole production cycle. It shows that Stanley Kubrick was an obsessive. He did tremendous amounts of research for every movie he made and spent years talking to scientists, doing scientific research, thinking about outer space exploration. Nobody had landed on the moon yet when this movie was made. And there's this famous conspiracy theory that Neil Armstrong never landed on the moon, but the footage was shot by Stanley Kubrick. It's one of the great myths of modern culture. So it's amazing to go through the whole production history in this exhibition. You get the view of the filmmaker and all of the creative team, and then it all comes together with the projections that you see of the film sequences.
Ellen Harrington, thank you so much for joining us.